Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once more to some more FaceIt League action. And hey, guess what? We had ourselves a doubleheader on Tuesday, and it's happening right here, right now. Once again, South America here to get us started in Dex. We've had some really good matches in the South America region, some very important ones, but perhaps none quite as important here today. Phoenix Rising and Pumas. It is straightforward as this. If you are win,
So close.
yeah, so we were so close to greatness. Okay, if you win, you're in. If you lose, you're gone. It is very straightforward, Dex, but I didn't make it that way.
Yeah, it's the classic win and you're in situation. You win, you go on to the playoffs as that number 4 seed. You lose, you do not make the playoffs. However, you will be staying in the South American Masters tier, we believe. So, I mean, it's a little bit of it sucks each way, but at least if you're the losing team, you're guaranteed a spot back here in the Masters tier next season. But we saw Phoenix Rising on Tuesday go up against Factor X, and Hunter, outside of maybe one map, Phoenix Rising really did keep that entire series close, even though Factor X was able to win that series in a 3-0. And we've seen Pumas a couple times this season, up against Elements, up against Factor X, I believe, in that one as well. And, I mean, we've seen Pumas be a little bit inconsistent. They've been really good some games and struggled some other ones. And, yeah, you could talk about maybe I shouldn't be counting that Elements game, but they just didn't necessarily look the best. It's going to be really interesting what Pumas team we get here tonight, because this Phoenix Rising team, I mean, we saw them for the first time on Tuesday, and they did leave a really good impression on me.
Yeah, exactly. With the situation with Pumas, it's kind of a situation of, it feels like they have beat the teams they should be beating, and they've lost to the teams they should be losing to. Their losses come from Elements, Warfist, Factor X, the 3 top teams right here. So, at the end of the day, now they're at that middle ground where they really have to prove that they can beat a middle-of-the-pack team like Phoenix Rising. But you said it yourself, we saw some really good things from them in that previous match over on Tuesday, and Phoenix Rising definitely has the tools to win this match. But one thing that they definitely need to work on was that level of initial aggression. I feel like they kind of allowed a lot of fights to happen before they were fully prepared to really take them. But we have kind of seen the same from Pumas, so this is kind of an opportunity for both these teams for redemption, and obviously no better a time than right now, as we're going to be figuring out this first map situation. And we always say, usually, like, Busan and Ilios, those are the 2 picks, or not Busan, Ilios, Busan Oasis. I say Ilios because we had it for the very first time in weeks in our last matchup on Tuesday, so I'm curious to see if maybe we go 2 for 2 here.
I mean, it really depends on who's picking, because I feel like that might have been a Phoenix Rising pick. And, I mean, that was by far probably the closest map we saw that series. Granted, all the maps were relatively close, but Phoenix Rising forced a 0.3, really kept it close, but Factor X just able to win out there. One other thing before we get on to this one. Warfist and Elements are currently playing tonight as well. They are playing for the 1st and 2nd seeds. We'll try to keep you updated on that series as we go on here tonight, but we're focusing on this play-in series here throughout it. But Hunter, looks like Busan going to be our first map here of the night. And when Busan comes out, you know, hero bands are going to be the next thing. I normally look for, especially just for the high dive ability of downtown, you know, getting rid of something like a Winston, something like a Diva, something like a Hazard. But, I mean, it's really different in this region. We've seen it multiple times where teams would rather ban out the Orisa over some of those other tanks.
Yeah, it ends up being a lot of things like the Orisa, the Juno, the Freya. Those usually kind of have been the big 3. We've seen Juno and Freya kind of start to decrease in that pick ability. We've seen Cassidy begin to rise since Cassidy has had a lot of momentum lately, especially with those changes we had a few weeks back, with that damage fall off being significantly less, that range being way further than we're used to. But it is Phoenix Rising's turn to get things going on this pick. But obviously, you want to take every second, make the best choice you can, because while there were, room for mistakes in the past when it comes to picks, I mean, this is the one time where you want to get it right.
It's the one time you want to get it right, but I feel like map 1 is always kind of one where, I mean, you could do a ban, maybe try to get rid of something here that you know won't necessarily be viable, or, you know, something you would want to see, or something you're okay with seeing down the line. But no, looks like Puma's going to be banning out the Freya here first. And I mean, Hunter, we saw a pretty good Freya play from Phoenix Rising on Tuesday. Actually, we just saw a really good hit scan play from Phoenix Rising on Tuesday at times. So banning out Freya, not necessarily the biggest shock. Now, if you are Phoenix Rising, you have the tank line and you have that support line. I feel like a map like this, I would normally go tank, but Ana is very, very strong on here, Ana Busan.
Yeah, I believe we saw the Ana ban last time. I can't remember if that was specifically from Phoenix Rising or from Factor X, but it did get banned out at one point. So I'm curious whether or not that's going to be the case to get it going. I really think it probably should be a support one. I don't think I want to ban Orisa out this early on, because I think the one category I really want to see early on is that tank category, because if you find out really early on the tank K is really good at Orisa or Amacha, Turtle Queen, whatever it might be, you can utilize that when you get to maps like Flashpoint, where I think those kind of brawl tanks are just going to be a lot more easy to utilize, and obviously you want to be able to save it for that kind of situation, so you kind of have to, I wouldn't necessarily call it a gamble to not ban it first out the gate, but, you know, play it safe, essentially, with that first ban.
Yeah, and it's kind of what I was getting at with the map 1 ban. Sometimes you just throw out a ban just because you're okay with seeing it later on in the series. Maybe you just want to get something out early on that you know one of your players is really strong on. And, I mean, a lot of times, Hunter, especially in the last couple of weeks before, you know, we were getting into seeing Freya be banned out the majority of the time, you'd always see either Juno or Kiri be banned, and then whatever 2 tanks were really strong, you'd see one of them get banned out. I mean, we're now starting to get into different kind of areas here with bans where DPS are being the first ones to go, which has been a surprising thing, but BAP is actually the second ban coming out here.
And this is not the first time we've seen a BAP ban either. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was one of the matches this last Tuesday where we had a Baptiste ban, and it kind of caught us off guard in that moment. But to be fair, there are a couple of really good Baptiste. Specifically, Hot Babe was doing really good as Baptiste throughout that series. So Puma getting rid of Baptiste out the gate, honestly, it makes a lot of sense. Maybe you can consider it a little bit too early, but to be honest, I guess I don't want to try to deal with it out the gate, since, I mean, I think you and I both agree Hot Babe was doing phenomenal things on that Baptiste that series.
Yeah, it seemed like Hot Babe was building up to an AM Matrix almost every other fight after using it. So banning it out here early on, not necessarily the biggest shock. However, I believe it's actually Phoenix Rising that's banning out the BAP here. So just maybe trying to force a certain playstyle here. Maybe they know there's a good Baptiste on the other side for Pumas. I mean, it's a really interesting one to see, but Hot Babe, like we said, we were very impressed with how they played Tuesday. I imagine they have a couple heroes in that hero pool to see. But I mean, looks like spirits are high here in the lobby before we get going into the game. Both teams wishing each other good luck, and I think both teams understand the stakes for this one here.
I mean, yeah, exactly. It's a scenario where both teams now being in this position, I mean, you have to go in being positive. You have to go in trying to have the best spirit as possible. You don't want to go into this game thinking, oh, you know, if we lose, we're out. You want to go into this game thinking, if we win, we're in. We get to go play against these Warfists, these Elements team once again, and have moments of redemption, because if you get into that top 4, your shot of moving on to EWC is very much still alive. This is what this game means at the end of the day, is having an opportunity to get to that spot. But either way, Busan gonna be getting going here, as I'm curious what we're to see out the gate, but normally when we get over here, usually Dive ends up being the variant we see.
Dive is the variant we end up seeing on this map in other regions. However, this one, I mean, you already see, well, there it is. I thought we were going to see the Orisa come out there for Connie on the side of Phoenix Rising, but no. Dive is going to be the way to go. Crow, though, showing us the Doomfist, which is really, really interesting. And you do see Lamont there for Pumas on the Tracer. Again, one of the biggest buffs that everyone's kind of talking about happened to Tracer, so now they're a little bit stronger. Poplots, though, I was going to say, if they're sticking with the Zen, very, very interesting. Oh, wow. These two teams, they want to keep us guessing at what they're playing. The Wrecking Ball. Hunter, you know how I feel about Wrecking Balls. They're kind of chaos compositions, and if you are Phoenix Rising, you have to be ready for it.
Exactly, and Crow is a player we don't see in all that often as well. Usually, Cajun ends up being the one that we see, but either way, Lamont has gone down pretty earlier, so Crow kind of loses a little bit of that viability when it comes to having follow-up with their slammers. But you're going to see currently trying to commit a rotation is Phoenix Rising, going in for the boop and power drive again, but just don't have the follow-up to be able to finish off somebody like Still Kiwi, as Crow going in for it. The initial stall, doing a good job of it, but eventually Point's gonna have to flip over to get us started.
I mean, Crow just tried to do the spin cycle right there. Not gonna be able to find it. Has to keep themselves alive here by using their shields. And right now, Hot Babe very low, but I mean, if you're Phoenix Rising, this is kind of start you like. You have control of the point, but you give it up quickly.
Yeah, you give it pretty quickly, only the 10% on the board, but this fight is still really anybody's game at this point, but someone needs to find that initial pick right now. Connie hoping to get Niano in a bit of a rough position, has managed to do so, separating them entirely right now, but Poplots is there to try to help out. The TP not quite in time by FX, and now they get frozen away, and with Connie helping with the 2K, it should be all but a matter of time as Point gonna flip back over 19% as Poplots unlikely to survive.
And Lamont need to try to get out as fast as they can. They're going to be able to blink away, and now you do see Phoenix Rising falling back here. Smart play by them, and already a swap coming out here from Crow. I was gonna wonder to see how long that ball was going to last, and hey, they decide one life is enough. Going over to the Orisa, now this is going to be a big problem for Connie because it's just the sustained ability of Orisa, as we talked about in the past. It's just a lot at the moment. It's going to be a lot of pressure thrown into them.
Yeah, now Love not able to utilize that Deadeye for this fight. Crow can be walled off as Niano has gotten away with 2 already. Pretty much has helped shut down this fight as soon as it begun, and now Connie, unfortunately, is going to go ahead and utilize the bomb, and Niano not be able to escape. They will be taken out, but unfortunately, Connie was not able to remake, and at this point, I think you just got to hit the reset button here, but hey, what do I know? Love is still finding picks.
Yeah, but I think at this point, you can kind of tell what the play is here. Oh... You do find one with the pulse bomb, but you invest in Kitsune Rush, you get booped away, so, I mean, you're not even going to be able to contest the point a little bit longer. Beat now coming out from Poplots. I mean, yeah, this is your sign to back out here, but Connie might be in a little bit too deep here, so they might be sacrificing themselves.
Yeah, but the wall does come out online, and actually, it's a managed up separating Connie from everything else, so they will get a bit of healing as both teams will be able to take a quick reset period.
Ultimate's online here. That Blizzard for Rain Day is going to probably be the biggest one, but Crow can completely negate that if they get a Spirit Spin onto it. Niano, we have seen what they've been able to do in the past with these overclocks. Everyone on the other side has to be very wary of where Niano is. Connie might be the one that really has to try to deal with Niano when they pop that ultimate off, but the EFX's Kitsune Rush here should really help out this Puma squad here early on in the fight if that's when they decide to use it.
Yeah, and we see Niano going to be moving in with the rest of the squad, trying to find one of the shots right now. Everyone forced into a corner. Deadeye has been activated by Love, getting plenty of defense as Poplots ends up going down first and foremost, but Love still managed to get rid of Crow by holding on to that for the entirety of its length, so inevitably Phoenix Rising is going to win this fight. The question is, how much longer can Puma stall out?
I mean, Lamont is there, so I imagine a couple more seconds of stall. Actually, good job by Lamont. Going to not be able to get the recall, so about 82% is going to be all they get here. Actually, no, 81. And honestly, a great play there by Love, but honestly, great play by everyone else that was around them. Crow was trying just to bully them down, threw the javelin at them. Connie took that one, and then that spear spin came out, just did not last long enough. Love able to find out, pretty much ended that fight right there. But you look at what Crow has, that Terror Surge right here, that should really help him out. Rain Day's Blizzard, though, still something you really need to worry about here if you are Pumas, because you don't want to have that come out in a spot where you cannot stop it.
Yeah, unfortunately, Crow pretty much gets nothing off of the Terror Surge, and now we're sitting at 85% and counting. Connie, though, it has managed to get rid of FX, though, as Beat has to be used by Kiwi to be able to sustain everybody. Unfortunately, the one person it really needed to get was Connie, who's going to have to use the bomb, throw it up in the air. It's going to cause separation, and eventually, 96% on the board. It's just Crow and FX trying to make it back for a touch. Unfortunately, the Boop going to secure that first round, so Phoenix Rising going to start strong, but if this first round is any indication of how the series is going to go, these teams are going to keep going back and forth.
Yeah, and this is kind of what we thought about the series coming into it. It's why we really chose it, other than the fact that it is a winner go home game. These two teams, we have seen them multiple times. Actually, we've only seen Phoenix Rising once, but we've seen Pumas multiple times. And I mean, Hunter, both me and you kind of talked about how similar these two teams are, how they are very resilient, how they will continue to fight even when the fight seems kind of done and dusted. But right now, Phoenix Rising pretty much picking up right where they left off from their game against Factor X on Tuesday. Even though they lost that one, they still look strong throughout the entire series. But now Pumas, how do they respond here? It was a close back and forth one, but Crow sticking on the Orisa while you see Connie swapping over to their own Orisa to mirror. I really like this here. You also see Love going over to, or Love staying on the Cassie, Lamont actually going over to the Cassie here now for Pumas. So they are really noticing that Cassie finding a lot of value here, especially I think looking back at that Deadeye that Love had, how much value it truly brought might be a reason you're seeing Lamont make the swap here as well.
Yeah, honestly, I like the swap, all things considered, to try to match it around. Lamont, though, is going to need a little bit of help here because Love is just holding down that flank pretty easily right now, but eventually he's getting a ton of pressure as 3 different members from Pumas. Currently trying to head over towards the side right now as Love is starting to get pincered in on. Will eventually fall over. The point has started over on the side of Phoenix Rising. Unfortunately, that is very unlikely to last at this point. Still Kiwi trying to hang around. Unfortunately, there's just really nothing left to work with. So again, a quick flip to get the round started. Only 9% is Rainy Day. Not going to get out of here alive.
They're getting staggered out here. And there they go. Nano gonna eventually take them there. 9%. I mean, hey, 1% less than what they got last point, but we're not going to see 19 for Pumas here this time around. And Pumas really played that first fight really good. They baited Love into a fight where it was 5v1 or 5v2, and you saw, I don't know if you saw, but I saw that Rainy Day and Steel Kiwi were kind of rotating around the backside of point the entire time and just weren't able to get there in time. Now, though, I mean, you look at FX here, already has a Consuming Rush ready to go here, at least not just yet, but as this fight starts, they'll probably get it ready to go. It's going to be really difficult, in my opinion, for Phoenix Rising to really do anything in this fight.
Ooh, and Love gets speared, and Nano gets the finish right there, and Nano, again, just kind of the glare-up squad so far, as unfortunately, once again, Rainy Day gonna take a bit of the later death right now. You wouldn't be able to get Connie out of there, though, and looks like they will be able to escape in due time. Unfortunately, Hot Babe not that lucky, and they might go for the chase here. They will.
They do. And they get it, and honestly, if you're Connie, yeah, you're either running into them or running off the side of the map. Running into them seemed to be the faster option. One thing I didn't mention, Connie swapped back over to the D.Va there. Didn't really find them a lot of value in that one, and investing early here? Finding value early.
Hey, might as well go for it. Why not? If you can clear this out even further and make this like push even stronger, why not? Because now with that right there, they've brought in the final fight territory. They're gonna have a beat for the freeze, and Lamont can stop them with that Deadeye almost any time.
But there you go, finding one. The Consuming Rush now coming out from Hot Babe. This is exactly what you needed if you are Phoenix Rising. You just need to get to point here now. Maybe finding one more pick along the way would really go a long way.
Yeah, Nano gets rid of one, eventually gets traded out, though Beat is going to come online, so I mean, they want to try to commit to win this thing right here and now, but that requires finding something as Crow going to try to find something with the Terror Surge. Unfortunately, once again, not finding anything in the freeze. Also not going to find anything as that gold form is ready to go, but FX still ends up being taken out. Crow trying to spin last as long as they possibly can. Lamont wants to make it with the Deadeye, manages to find one. Bomb comes online, create the stall for a little bit wider as Connie going to be able to barely get back in, but Nyano is still there, holding down the fort, and unfortunately, it's a race to get back for Still Kiwi, but it won't happen. 100-9, a lot closer than last round, as we'll be heading over to our third sub point to finish up the map.
Yeah, and I mean, you could kind of tell right there. Phoenix Rising really struggled with playing the Brawl, that map, and then they swapped over to the D.Va, but I mean, you just saw it there. Pumas really took advantage of winning that first fight really strong, and then just played so far up that I don't think Phoenix Rising was necessarily ready for it. And now we go over to, I mean, I would call this point a little bit more diveable than what we saw there on Sanctuary. However, I mean, you see Connie on the Junker Queen now instead. Other than that, Rainy Day, the only one making a swap here over to the Venture. I like this one here, especially if you want to try to disrupt Crow or disrupt FX in that backline. Force out the Suzu, force out that Swift Step early here.
Yeah, and one thing I love seeing is Connie over on this Junker Queen. It can find did not find value, ladies and gentlemen. Fight's pretty much already cooked and over with, as Nyano does get taken care of, so as long as they're able to reset, keep everybody up, they should be able to engage pretty quickly once more.
Yeah, I mean, Connie should get back in here, and I mean, you can still see a fight for first point here. Losing Love, though, you're probably not going to see a fight for first point.
Yeah, but Cleanse does list Lamont, unfortunately, so Connie and squad are going to start moving in. The point is still, you know, going to start over on the side of Pumas, but the problem is they kind of have to hide away as the entire squad of Phoenix Rising is slowly gathering together.
Rainy Day trying to find top lots right there, but not going to be able to find. They do find FX out, though, here early on. That should give, that should give what Phoenix Rising needs here, just for the swap.
Yeah, it's still a 3v2 situation, though. Lamont has dropped to go for the kill. Unfortunately, it's a 2v1, and unfortunately, as good as Nyano is sometimes, Connie just has way too much health to deal with.
And honestly, that was a fight that Phoenix Rising really needed to win, or else I really think this point and probably this map would have started to slowly slip away from them here. However, Ultimate's online. You're going to really see Hot Babe's Ultimate here ready to go first, and this is exactly what you need from them. They're great on certain supports, but right now they've been playing a solid Kiri.
Yeah, and still keep it going down first. Obviously, that could be a bit of a crux, but I mean, they claimed the fight very easily elsewise, and now they are starting to build up to all 5 of these ultimates. But to be honest, Puma's not too far behind in that regard.
Yeah, Popbot's the only one kind of lagging behind, but they're not that far behind Steel Kiwi, so they're pretty much even at the moment here. But Hunter, we're gonna see a pretty heavy ult fight as you already see the Consumer Rush out here from Hot Babe, and there's the Rampage.
Yeah, Lamont pretty much gets solo with the Rampage, and Connie is probably gonna die here more than likely. Does eventually go down, but still, this fight is over with. Crow is not even gonna be able to get back into the spawn room, so 60% and counting. 3 ultimates still online for both squads here, and even though being at 60-some%, I really consider this final fight territory.
If it's a slow fight, yeah. If it's a quick fight, not necessarily. But honestly, finding Crow when they did was a huge pick there for them. Rainy Day, though, popping the Terror Surge or the Tectonic Shock in that backline.
Yep, Beat has come online. They're popping 2 ults very early to make this happen. Still, Kiwi used the Beat before to be able to keep them sustained. Unfortunately, is going to go down, and now Love trying to make something happen, getting cared. Will eventually be able to get rid of Niano, but Connie is the one who's really suffering now, trying to stay alive. Unfortunately, all that healing they get back from the lifesteal is just not doing enough, and now Rainy Day needs to come up clutch and find something here, try to knock somebody off the edge. Unfortunately, the separation is just working out too well for Pumas, who eventually will stop it at the 99 marker here, as everyone will take the reset, and now for the most part the economy has taken a rest, but Lamont has a Deadeye coming up.
Lamont has a Deadeye coming up here, and there's really nothing on the other side to truly stop it.
Oh, no.
So it's almost free, and Connie just overstepping their boundaries right there. However, I mean, you have this huge lead. You can afford to do that, but you really do not want to allow Pumas to build up into this ult economy that they're slowly building up to now. Hot Babe not that far away from their Consumer Rush. However, FX about to have theirs here. So, again, we're in that same situation where we were kind of last point, where Pumas was slowly building up these ultimates, use them at the right time, and just kind of took control of that entire point.
Yeah, and you might see a level of aggression here out the gate from Pumas right now, as they're hoping to go for something, but unfortunately, they're going to get rushed, and they're going to zone that out immediately. Unfortunately, Rainy Day still goes down, and the fact that you got one person is enough of a success, as they're going to try to move further, but unfortunately, that is near disaster. Connie does manage to get rid of one, unfortunately, can't sustain further, and now you need to reset quickly if you're Phoenix Rising, because this next fight, I mean, the theme of it all, this is winner takes all.
Yeah, and again, I don't necessarily. You heard my reaction when Hot Babe popped that Consumer Rush right there. Yeah. I thought it was a really inopportune time to use it. Yeah, you got FX's Consumer Rush out. I don't think you need to immediately respond with your own. You need to build up to 1-2 more ultimates like you were about to have here with Connie and their Rampage. There's the Deadeye from Lamont, though. If they find 1 or 2, that might just be currents for this map, Hunter.
Yeah, getting boot back. Poplas does get hit. Crow is going to have to try to sustain with the Terror Surge. Unfortunately, not going to get anything right now. And it's down to these DPS to try to help with the cleanup. But Connie is still going strong. Got a second. Rainy Day is there. And now it is just a couple more bodies there to stall. Niano has to come up clutch for their squad, is trying to find people. Unfortunately, again, everybody's staying hidden. The flip has come through. And while Crow is coming back for the Dutch, trying to sustain for as long as they can, it's going to take a lot. Love finishes off Poplots, and Crow is being forced back into the room. Is not going to be able to recontest, and that's going to be Phoenix Rising coming up clutch, bringing it back. And hey, at the end of the day, Pumas fighting back strong, but Phoenix Rising with a certain level of aggression that I don't think we got to quite see from them in that previous Factor X matchup.
We saw it at times, especially back on Ilios. I think it was Ruins. We saw the aggression level come out from them, where it really ended up working out for them, and it just gave Factor X a lot of problems. But I mean, this map though, it was still back and forth. Puma showed us a lot of aggression, especially on that second point, where I mean, at times they could have gone touch spawn doors, but they just didn't. They played safe. They played back a little bit, forcing Phoenix Rising to engage into them. But Phoenix Rising, this was a good kind of bounce back map for them. Remember, they started off kind of sluggish in this third point. I mean, they lost, I believe it was Connie very early on, before the fight even, before a real fight happened, before the point even opened up. However, the point opens up. Yeah, they let Pumas cap point first, but it wasn't that long of a cap.
Yeah, pretty much all 3 maps had the same exact story. There would be a cap that comes through, it lasted 15% or under, and then the point just flipped back to the other team pretty quickly. But speaking of things going by pretty quickly, we're looking at the picks for this coming up. Runasapi ends up being the map pick here for Pumas, and on top of that, Diva ends up being the initial ban, so now Phoenix Rising gonna have to pick either a damage or a support here. And to be fair, D.Va being taken out, I kind of like it. At the end of the day, it takes away a potential option for Connie to really swap around, because Connie has been rather impressive in those last couple of games when it comes to that D.Va.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the D.Va gave him a lot of problems first point that we truly saw. So getting rid of the D.Va here is not necessarily the worst idea, especially because just being able to move around the map that fast on this map in particular is very, very strong for the teams. However, that does allow us to see Connie be back on that Jungle Queen, which really worked out for them on Mecha base. So that kind of opens that door back up. However, Orissa's still on the other side now, but we saw what that Orissa battle into the Jungle Queen really looked like. It was back and forth, but Connie, at times when they had their supports there, and most particularly Love still alive, it seemed like they would always end up coming out on top here. But heading into our second map here, I'm just trying to figure out, what does Pumas need to do different here to get them over the hump here, get them a map win here to make this a series? Because, I mean, there's not much I can really say that they should do, since they played that first map incredibly close.
I mean, yeah, they really did. They had a very good, second round on top of that as well. It's one of those scenarios where I don't think there's a lot that they necessarily did wrong. I think Nyano played an amazing getting things going. Lamont was also doing good as usual. But it was a different style, because we're not used to seeing Crow in all that often. Cajun is usually the starting tank more often than not. And with the fact that we are already connecting to our lobby, that means Crow is in fact staying in this situation, so they might be coming back in to play the Orisa or maybe try the ball again. But I think at this stage of the game, the ball unfortunately just wasn't really finding the initial effectiveness they were hoping for. So I'm curious what the case is going to be, as we're getting ready to go into Runasapi momentarily.
I mean, this could be a map where you see Wrecking Ball. Definitely is a little bit better of a Wrecking Ball map than what Busan is, in my opinion. And you do see Wrecking Ball come out here from time to time in every level of play. So Wrecking Ball might be back on the table, but going up against the Jungle Queen, which is a kind of soft counter, just because Knifeball can, really disrupt anything you want to do as that Wrecking Ball. But it's going to be interesting to see what the two teams play here, because, I mean, Freya back on the table here now for both teams. Do we see that come back in? Do we see the Cassidys stick around? Honestly, Hunter, you know how I kind of feel about it. I feel like Cassidy's a little bit of a stronger pick at the moment, but you cannot deny the viability of a Freya.
No, you never can. You can't underestimate a Freya. You get 2 of those aim shots in, 3 in some cases, and you can just destroy somebody. That's how a lot of these backlines were getting blown up previously, was because of what that Freya could accomplish. But as we see at the moment, neither team currently representing it in that situation, which, by the way, I forget if we said it or not, but the other band did end up being Lucio, which is pretty much, I think, the sole reason why still Kiwi is currently on the Juno instead.
Yeah, and giving an update on the other game going on right now, Warfist actually took the first map off of Elements there.
Wow.
But I was gonna be very scared. Rainy Day was hovering over that Widowmaker for too long. But hey, they got me. But gonna be the Orisa battle coming out, which is honestly, Hunter, I kind of thought we would see the Jungle Queen come out for at least the side of Phoenix Rising, because it really worked out well for them. But Rainy Day already in that backline. If they're not noticed, it's gonna be a problem. But Nano notices them.
Yeah, just trying to hang around, trying to make something happen. Hot Babe getting extremely low early on. Gotta be careful not to be too separated, because they don't really have speed on either side, but you're still able to close the distance pretty quickly if you're something like a Soldier, like an Orisa, even Cast in some instances. So you have to be careful of your positioning, because you don't get the same kind of viability you have when you have a Chuno or a Lucio. But either way, everything is kind of staying at that standstill right now, hoping to be able to blast through, find the pick right now, because both these teams are at a big stalemate. A lot of people getting low, though, as Love ends up finding the first pick onto Niano, and the dominoes fall just like that.
And now, honestly, if you are Phoenix Rising, I was going to say try to stall out these two, or stagger out these two supports as long as you can, but Popolotch was just going to go for the stall, and FX was kind of, yeah, they were going to die no matter what right there. But a really good first fight. And honestly, I think they were waiting for a moment where Rainy Day could really engage into that entirety of the team, since everyone on Pumas was playing really close. And the moment they got that first pick, Rainy Day went into full action there, burrowing up from under them essentially. And look at what this gets them, Hunter. Barely over a minute and a half in, and Phoenix Rising already has forward spawns.
Yeah, and FX is going to go ahead and let loose on that Matrix as well, and it's going to cause everybody to be in a bit of an awkward spot, but Lamont ends up going down, not going to have the Deadeye here, so now it's going to trade out a 4-to-4 situation, forcing everybody away as Crow and squad have to be forced back. Had a moment to pull on the trigger. Terror Surge now activated, trying to find something as Connie will be able to get one. And now 70 meters and counting already, and this is entering nightmares territory for Pumas out the gate.
It really is, and I mean, yeah, they're coming up to some ultimates here, but I like the kiting that we saw there from Phoenix Rising when it was FX that popped their own Matrix. Crow, though, has their Terror Surge. I would not be surprised if they try to pair it up here with Lamont's Deadeye. That could be a deadly combo.
And Lamont, they're going to drop behind, and they're going to get at least one off of this, I imagine. If they don't, it'd be devastating. If they're pulling back into the Terror Surge, get a bunch of low, Immortality's out, and Crow gets away with the 2 right there. Hop Day, though, still alive, gets rid of Crow, so it's not over quite yet, but Rainy Day trying to bring this one back, is successfully doing it to an extent. Unfortunately, doesn't get quite underground in time, so 93 meters will be the extent for the time being.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a situation that we don't really see that often, Hunter, at least in the games that we cast the majority of the time, where a team is going to actually not have to worry about potentially losing 1 or 2 members to the far spawns. They're all going to be able to come back in here and contest at the initial starting point. However, the only ultimate ready to go right now is Niano's Overclock, and this might be a point in this map and potentially in this series where this Overclock needs to find value, especially losing top lots early.
Yeah, that's a bit devastating out the gate. Love, though, has been deleted as Niano is only really able to get 1 out of that exchange. And now, unfortunately, Crow and the rest of the squad just going to be pushed back hard again. They're going to be able to get back to that checkpoint without any issue. And honestly, should be able to get back to that initial 93 meterage without issue, too.
And I'm wondering what Crow's thought process was there. They decided to engage into the fight rather than backing out. I really think if they backed out, they would have been able to stay alive. And now Ant-Mitch is coming out aggressively. Hot Fave, though, not going to be able to find much use for it.
Yeah, and now this meterage isn't going to go all that much further at the end of the day. But to be fair, you do the 1-for-1 all trade, you can't really hit it because Phoenix Rising is going to take 50-50 fight wins pretty much the entire 6 minutes if they can allow it.
Yeah, and I was just about to say, the one thing you brought up right there are these 50-50 kind of fights. This is something that Phoenix Rising is going to look for the majority of this map. They have a huge lead. They really don't want to give any kind of momentum back over to Pumas because, Hunter, they win this map. They're 1 map away from locking themselves in the playoff. Deadeye's, though, out from both sides.
Yeah, we'll see who is going to get the better of it in this situation, but nobody seems to be getting any value from at least eliminations. But Niano does get separated. And now Niano just not able to get a whole lot. We're going to see the big investment, unfortunately, for Poplots. It's just not going to work out. Crow and squad still trying to survive, but again, Puma just being stopped right then and there. Crow likely going to take a bit of a late death here. Just going to die on the car as they should. But once again, Phoenix Rising just going, I mean, they just keep fighting back, and unfortunately, Pumas are getting nowhere.
Again, 50-50 fights at this point for Phoenix Rising. You are gladly taking those. You still have half the time bank left. That's the only problem. You would like to continue to push this up maybe 5-10 meters every time you get the chance. Look, they're already trying to push it up here, but you have to deal with the Terror Surge from Crow here. You only have the rally and Hot Babe not that far away. I like what they're doing here. They're backing up. They're going to take a fight probably around this first initial checkpoint.
Yeah, I like that at the end of the day. They're willing to back out a little bit, take their time here, because if you win this fight right here, you put yourself in the territory of being able to simply end this one outright. But Pape gonna go aggressive, and the Terror Surge is gonna be activated. It's gonna have 3 people in it currently. Needs to find somebody, unfortunately. Immortality Field gonna keep them alive momentarily. Crow trying to back out with that spin. Unfortunately, the damage is just a little too much to deal with, and now, minus Rainy Day, Phoenix Rising gonna start moving in, potentially looking for the killing blow.
And Love doing so much. Rainy Day, though, well, I cannot dismiss what their value was in that fight. Yeah, they weren't anywhere near the main part of the fight, but they are disrupting the back line, which has been what Venture's starting to become known for here. They're becoming almost a little bit of a different tracer with a lot more burst potential here. Crow, though, swapping over to the Wrecking Ball. Hunter, this might be kind of a last chance grasp here for them with this ball if it doesn't really work out this map.
Yeah, Rainy Day is going to escape momentarily, and now we're going to see the Terror Surge once more be pulled in. Connie not going to get anybody quite yet, but it's causing rich separation. Lamont end up going to go down. Going to be trading out the Cassidys here. But again, these trades are going to favor Pumas at the end of the day. They are way closer as Niano going to go in and try to find something, but Immortality Field is there, and now 130, and it's counting up further and further. Rainy Day does get stunned out, will end up going down, but now They have to force themselves onto this point, need to get some kind of touch right now, but they're getting spun around. They won't get there, and that is a full cap with time to spare for Phoenix Rising.
Not only is it a full cap with time to spare, Hunter, they didn't let Pumas get a meter. They didn't let them get a centimeter. They don't let them get an inch. That is bigger than 100-0. I don't know how long the map is here, but it's an insane performance here from Phoenix Rising. And like we said coming into this one here, Phoenix Rising really did impress us on Tuesday against Factor X. I didn't expect this, though, from them. We've seen Pumas a couple times, I believe 3 times throughout the regular season. And like I said, they were kind of a team that when they're on, and when they're off, you're kind of scratching your head at because there's still players doing good. But right now, I mean, after map 1, we were thinking, okay, well, Pumas is picking this map for a reason. They looked like they had a good plan going into it, but I feel like just the slight differences in their compositions, especially Rainy Day on that venture, just was a little bit too much for them to deal with. Rainy Day, multiple times, it seemed like every fight, they were trying to get in that backline, and at some point, if you're Pumas, you had to recognize that.
You had to eventually at some point you get so far behind out the gate, and sometimes that changes the mentality of how you try to fight, and unfortunately a lot of the times it ends up really being for the worse that early on, because you feel like you have to force something and make something happen when you really need to try to figure out a game plan to get things moving. So I want to see what Pumas want to do here, because obviously from y'all watching right now, you can see that Hollywood is our next pick and potentially our last pick of the series as well. But this is a different situation. Hollywood, for the most part, this is a dive map. This is a map where first, second point, that is going to be primarily what it is. Third point, you can go to some brawl shenanigans, but this is going to be the time where if Crow is going to make something happen with that ball, I mean, it's definitely going to be now.
Yeah, and I mean, while we wait for bans to come in here, I imagine there's probably already one. I'm looking at the stats from that last map, and Connie was a difference maker. 21-2, most eliminations in the entire lobby right there alone, and they did such an incredible job on that Orisa. And I was really surprised to see Orisa there, an Orisa mirror. I thought we would see Connie on that Junker Queen, but they showed us why they like to play the Orisa, especially on that map in particular. And I mean, Rainy Day, they struggled a little bit, had the most deaths on their team with 5, but they were playing that backline game. They were being that spy, always trying to disrupt them. So I don't blame those deaths, because a lot of the times them dying normally did lead to them actually winning fights a lot of times. So great play all around from everyone there on the side of Phoenix Rising. But heading into Hunter, like you said, our third and final map of the series, I mean, the bans, I feel like here are going to make such a huge difference.
I think they really are in a situation like this, as we're waiting to see the lineups be finalized now. We'll see what the bans end up being here momentarily, as we'll set up for the third and, like we said, potentially the final map. But for the moment, no changes quite yet. Crow is currently still sitting in the lineup, which is still weird to me. This is not a shot at Crow whatsoever. Crow has done what they can in this situation, but Cajun is the tank that we normally see, for Pumas right now. And obviously, it could be a scenario. Maybe Cajun just couldn't be here tonight. Maybe it's just that kind of situation. You never truly know. But the scenario right now is Phoenix Rising have a situation figured out here. The question is whether or not they can take what they have done this first 2 maps and translate that over to a dive situation. As yeah, I have a something's not quite right here.
Yeah, I think both mine and your things are glitching out.
Well, it's more than that, because so for context, ladies and gentlemen, we were supposed to be going to Hollywood. However, we're all being brought into a game that is listed as Busan. And obviously, we have already played Busan. It went over to Phoenix Rising 2-1. So something's not quite right. So I think most of the players have picked up on what's going on here. So I think it's going to be a couple minutes before we get this one fixed up.
But yeah, while we wait for this one to get fixed up here, let's give it an update on the other series going on right now between Warfist and Elements. That one right there is for the number 1 seed. Winner goes on to be the number 1 seed. Loser is the number 2 seed and will have to play Factor X in their first game. Right now, Hunter, Warfist up 2-0 on Elements.
Yeah, that is not quite what I expected. But to be fair, we haven't really gotten to know if there was any gap between these teams because this is the first time they've gotten to really meet each other this season right here. And to be fair, this isn't the first time they're gonna meet each other either because, again, they're both going to be in those top 2 slots. If they win their initial games, they'll go up against each other in those upper finals. And then, hey, maybe even a grand final situation. These teams could face each other 3 times over the course of the next couple of weeks here. So I'm curious to see how it goes down. I'll go ahead and fade over and show some of the stats from their last round that they had here. I'm looking for a couple standout things, and Kabbalata, someone that we saw quite a lot on Elements, even though losing that out, ended up having 31 eliminations overall, ends up being pretty impressive. Unfortunately, ended up dying 11 times, which was more than the most on their team, so kind of getting a lot for losing a lot, I would call it.
Yeah, and I mean, unfortunate play from them right there. Update on our series, though. Same mistake happened, so we're going to probably have another lobby reset because they still think we're going to Busan real quick. But, I mean, what does Pumas have to do here, Hunter? I mean, first map was incredibly back and forth. Hell, you even go to Sanctuary, where they were the dominant team. They looked like nothing Phoenix Rising could do would stop them. Then Mecha Base happens. It's, again, a back and forth map. And Phoenix Rising wins that one. Then they go to, I forget, Rudasapi, and they didn't. Phoenix Rising didn't allow a meter, which, Hunter, even in some of the biggest stomps I've ever seen on that map, the other team still maybe gets 5, 10, 15 meters. Getting 0 and completing the map with a large amount of time on that time bank is almost unheard of.
It really is. I've heard about that situation, and that pretty much comes down to them not really being stopped in those first 2 minutes. It's a scenario that, again, is really tough to come back from, but they have to be able to find a way to adjust. And speaking of, I brought up earlier, not sure where Cajun is. If everyone's looking in chat right now, Cajun is currently on a cruise. So first of all, I hope you're having fun. But second of all, that explains why Crow is in right now. But again, Crow is doing what they can in this situation. It's entirely viable for Pumas to go and still pull this off, though. I mean, again, these are still very impressive players. We have talked about this front line between, Niano and Lamont throughout the season, the times that we've been able to see them in these games like this. But going into a map like Hollywood, I think throughout the maps that we've seen, that should give them the biggest chance not only to shine, but to have the most impact on the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Crow, the times that we have seen Crow in our last couple series as well, they have been able to come in and provide sparks for this team. And when sometimes Cajun wouldn't, I mean, these are 2 tanks that are really, really good. And I believe even some of those times, Crow and Cajun, they would both be at the same time. These are 2 flexible players on this Puma squad. So I really hope Crow's able to bounce back here in this next map and show us the Crow that we both kind of know. Because when they are on it, that entirety of Pumas is on it as well. While we still wait for the problem to be resolved here, what does Phoenix Rising necessarily need to do? Because, I mean, Hunter, I think both me and you can kind of agree we did not expect what we saw there in that last map to happen. But Phoenix Rising, it just seemed like they know how to break down and beat Pumas in almost any fight.
Yeah, that's how it really felt. And again, we bring up the scenario of how things went at the beginning, where it felt pretty back and forth. In fact, Pumas seemed to have really figured out on when we got over to Sanctuary. It ended up being like, it was like 100 to like 9 or something like that. It was pretty one-sided when we got there. And I think part of what that came from was, again, having a certain level of aggression. And I know I use the same phrase over and over, aggression, 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 but it is an important phrase in a game like Overwatch, where unless you're running a comp that is specifically designed to play slow, you're going to lose fights if you don't take engagements and you take this willingness to go in and utilize what you have. Now, that's not to say you're going to win 100% of the fights if you just slam your W key into the enemy team and try to make something happen, but it's a better option than sitting back and letting them come to you unless you have ults specifically around that kind of situation. I mean, you'll sometimes try to bait a team into using Kitsune Rush, and then you simply just back out immediately. That's how we saw Pumas win one of the fights that they had, was because that Kitsune Rush came up, and they immediately got out of dodge, they backed up, and then they reset with their own, and were able to break through. It's situations like that that proves that this team is smart, that can win fights. But it's more than just being able to react, it's being able to initiate as well.
Yeah, and I mean, like you kind of said, where aggression is such an important factor in this game. Unless your entire composition is based around baiting the other team into that aggression, which Puma's composition was not really built for that last
No.
map. However, while it looks like the series is on hold here for a moment, while I imagine both these teams are reaching out to someone at FaceIt to try to
Yeah.
get everything resolved here. I mean, Phoenix Rising. Like I said, I thought I was very high on them after their Tuesday loss against Factor X. I'm still surprised by what they're showing us. I mean,
Mm.
we were most impressed by probably Hot Babe after that series, but we are now starting to see a Love and Rainy Day come in and make a lot of noise as well. Where in their series against Factor X, they kind of struggled into it at points.
Yeah. To be fair, it was a scenario where Factor X, at that point before that game, they weren't locked into their slot either. It was a scenario where they had to either win that game or win against their game, which they're having a little later tonight against Luminous Mortis. Unfortunately, that game doesn't have any impact on seeding. Factor X is solely locked in to that third spot, and Luminous Mortis, no matter what, will be in the sixth spot. So, bright side for Luminous Mortis, no matter how that match goes, barring, certain shenanigans, they should be able to stay in the Masters tier for next season and have another opportunity. But obviously, if you're one of these teams right here, you're happy to come back for Master, next season, but you want to be able to have this opportunity to go into the top four and go into the playoffs because it's not just that spot at EWC. I mean, there's also money on the line. Like, you can never forget that at the end of the day, because it's fun to win tournaments, it's fun to win games, but sometimes, you got to have your eyes on the prize just a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if you're seeing what's going on here at the moment. It seems like they are trying to actually just make their own server here for this game. FaceIt might be having a little bit of a problem.
Ooh.
So it looks like we might be getting them making their own server for our potential third or final map of the series here.
I can't say I've had that specifically happen before. But obviously, if that's the way it'll go, that'll be the way it'll go. But I'm sure that'll take a moment for them to be able to set up and get that going. I mean, we've talked pretty up and down as to what we believe both these teams should do in this situation right here. I'm not usually at a loss for words in these kind of situations because it's not usual that we have stoppages like this. We've had issues with South America servers previously, but we were able to laugh it off, funny hee haw, take the reset. But now we just gotta wait to see what happens because it's an unfortunate situation when it happens in a game, especially one like this where there is just so much on the line.
Yeah, and this is an awkward situation for both these teams because if you're Pumas, you're trying to get back into the series, and if you're Phoenix Rising, you're trying to end it.
Yeah.
And going into something like this where the players are making the lobby and then have to report it back to FaceIt themselves, I don't necessarily know how that's written in the rule book yet, but it might seem like, based off of what they're saying in chat, it might kind of seem like this is just a warm-up lobby while they wait for someone from FaceIt to potentially fix the problem. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that just might be the route we kind of have to go down because obviously with the fact that everything in FaceIt is automated, when you go out of that automated kind of setting, it does require people to have to step in and kind of figure it out. So, again, it's a scenario that we're just going to have to wait for a few minutes here to try to get things figured out. Obviously, we have no really kind of ETA on what that situation is going to be. It could happen in a few seconds. It could take several minutes. It's just it's the FaceIt system. Something you got to get things going somehow. There isn't always somebody sitting by at the immediate moment. It's such as life. It is what it is. But I mean, in the meantime, Dex, we could obviously take a minute and rest our vocal cords. We could also talk more about these teams. We could talk about even North America for a moment and their whole standing situation when it comes to our match later tonight. There is a fair amount to talk about because this is the most important week because for some teams this is where they realize getting to that top 4/top 8. But unfortunately, there's gonna be multiple teams today that unfortunately are going to lose that possibility to move on to their respective playoffs.
Yeah. I don't know if they're treating this as a final map or they're treating this as a test.
I think we're going to find out pretty quickly, because I am curious. Because wait, where are you seeing chat at? I'm curious.
Are you not in the lobby?
I am not in the lobby currently, no.
They invited me. They forgot to invite you.
That is an interesting scenario. I mean, to be fair, if they're messing around right now, oh, I see it. I think Love heard the situation. Well, to be fair, they are on Surabasa, which means that they indeed are just testing things out right now. Unless they move over to Hollywood on this reset, of course, which they have not. So we'll kind of just hang around here for the moment, kind of just figure things out, because, again, we can't really give you guys updates because we know as much as the players do. And
Outlaws is saying this is a real map.
That's really interesting. But to be fair, they're the only word we have to go off, so we obviously have to try to take their word for it. I imagine what's going to happen is this is going to be treated, like I said, like a regular lobby, and they're just going to have to self-report the results and give map codes and stuff. That's what I imagine is going to happen.
Yeah, a very awkward situation here, but if this is truly the third map of the series, it's going to be interesting to see what happens after this one if Pumas ends up winning. Just with the whole entire FaceIt system. But, I mean, now, as we are in Surabasa, we'll get to see what these two teams want to play. It looks like Pumas at least teasing us with a Doomfist again. Crow didn't show us it last time. They went back over to the Wrecking Ball very quickly. There's the Freya for the first time here this series from Lamont. Not necessarily surprised to see it here. However, I think Cassie is the slightly better pick at the moment for this map in particular. Connie, though, still kind of waiting to see what they pick. I would imagine it's going to be the Orisa. If not, maybe Ramatra. Nope, the Orisa it is. We're seeing that Orisa mirror back here again. Lamont? Nah, it was gonna be really interesting to see if they stayed on the Symmetra. Nope, going over to the Tracer.
Yeah, so curious to see how that's going to be going down, because obviously teams were able to kind of take a few minutes. There was kind of maybe a little bit of a mental reset. So now for Pumas, it's all about just trying to take that reset and utilize it as much as they possibly can, as they already have taken control of the point right now, trying to hit that flank route. But Love just finds the connection immediately onto Niana right now. Lamonto does get a little bit of revenge and brings it back to a 4 versus 4 situation. But this really is going to be the battle of Orisas of who's going to be able to last longer, as Cleanse has to be expanded to keep Crow alive. And unfortunately, they're going to back around and try to get the flank on Rainy Day, and they sacrifice the touch to be able to try to do so.
Yeah, and I mean, right now you're hoping Lamont finds some out here, but finding Love out is actually a huge pick, because Love's been doing a lot of damage so far, and Rainy Day kind of in an awkward spot.
Crow also entering a bit of an awkward spot, running out of cooldowns very quickly right now. Floplots ends up going down. Unfortunately, still the Kiwi does not get caught out. So at this point, I mean, this is just a slow burn for the rest of Pumas, as they're getting pushed back further and further, as Crow will not be able to escape.
And talk about Hot Babe fighting us so much value that fight. They already have Ant Mitches ready to go here, but so does Rainy Day, about to have Blizzard Connie not that far away from their terracers. But Hot Babe on that high ground was not really contested at all. No one really looked up at him, maybe a few shots here and there, but then they had to change their focus onto everyone else there from Phoenix Rising. Right now, though, I mean, this is Final Fight territory, but I like this aggressiveness out from Phoenix Rising.
Yeah, Contender Rush going to be used back pretty effectively, though. I think this is a great use going in here. Crow trying to push in. Connie getting super low, needs to get eliminated, eventually will. And now with that, should just be the use of that Kitsune Rush there, as Hot Babe going to be eliminated. It's just Love and Rainy Day. Neither are going to be able to utilize their ultimates. 99% though is on the board for Phoenix Rising, so overall is a good experience, and they're going to have some pretty strong ultimates for this next fight.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, that's a fight you really needed to win if you were Pumas, especially with that ultimate being invested of that Ant Matrix. You did throw out your own Kitsune Rush from FX, but hey, it ended up winning the fight, and you're now really happy for it. You're going to have a beat here soon for Pop-Lots unless they're the first one to die. That should cancel out a Blizzard, but what's going to be the follow-up? Because you have to deal with the Terror Surge. I would not be surprised to see those two comboed here, Hunter. Bro, though, you're going to be staring at them because they have that Eat ability where you can get rid of that Blizzard.
Yeah, Freeze has been used. Crow's in a bit of a rough scenario. Niano has managed to get rid of one. Needs to potentially find a second, but Rainy Day there to finish things off. But it's still anybody's game at this point. But unfortunately, with Crow being knocked out, the possibility has gone from low eventually to 0, as it's still Lamont and FX hanging around. Unfortunately, they're going to try to make touches. Will eventually get it with a recall. But Deadeye has been utilized just to try to shut this down right here and now. Everyone's got to play safe. Cleanse has been used, and FX, unfortunately, Love doesn't actually pull the trigger when they had the opportunity. And now, everyone trying to get back into the fight. The flip going to go back through, and Lamont is helping clean house.
This feels like a big mistake by Phoenix Rising. This gives Pumas that kind of momentum they really needed here. And remember, when we saw Phoenix Rising play against Factor X on Tuesday, they actually won the first point, but then struggled after that. This might be the reverse here this time around. And you're going to have your Terror Surge ready to go, but you're not going to use it. Crow, Lamont, and FX able to build up to their own ultimates as well. You're going to have a very, very tough fight here going into our next point. Because, yeah, you're going to have an Ant Matrix, but there's so much out on that other side that you're going to have to deal with. I just don't necessarily know if you're going to be able to take the full-on force of it all at the same time.
Yeah, 100%. Before we get into this fight, quick shout out really quick. Lepardel ready with 68 people. Holy hell, we love to see it, and it's going to be a big, impactful fight. Wall going to come out there to stop Crow from being able to invest, but Considering Rush going to be utilized to some degree. Unfortunately, they're stopped pretty much in their tracks. Connie able to get away with a lot on the Terror Surge, as Crow is just going to end up dying on this point right here, as once again Phoenix Rising gonna get a strong start here, only end up having to utilize the Terror Surge, and now they're coming up to double support ultimates for this next fight.
A really good spot here for them. And I'm gonna be honest, I saw Phoenix Rising rotate towards the edge of the point, or edge of the map. I was like, oh no, I got flashbacks to Tuesday where we just saw two players walk off the map under their own power here. But yeah, this double support ultimates here for Phoenix Rising is gonna have to be huge. The Pulse Bomb not gonna be able to find anyone. Hot Babe does enough to keep him alive, but Hot Babe not gonna see much longer of this fight.
Yeah, Beat came out online, unfortunately, just half a second too late. Crow's in a rough scenario. He's going to probably have to utilize the bomb here to be able to stay going right now. Going to probably be taken care of, but Rainy Day has to take a figure. They're going to try to go for the stomp on them. It doesn't quite happen, and now this might just be a bit of a stall game, as Rainy Day running out of cooldowns, going to get hunted down here to try to make it back. But unfortunately, yeah, this is just going to be a stall. Doing a good job of it, though, as Crow eventually going to help finish off things. It's kind of going down 74%, so it is in that one-fight territory.
It's in that one-fight territory, but we said this last point as well, where all that Phoenix Rising needed to do was win one fight, and they would be able to win that first point. And I mean, they never did it. They never did it. You look now over at the side of Pumas here. They have Niano's overclock, which was able to find one last time they used it, and that's all they really needed to find from it. Lamont has Pulse. I mean, if you are Pumas, you're in a great spot. However, you're about to have the same amount of ultimates on the other side. Still Kiwi, though.
Yeah, and Lamont's gonna go in and catch on Namor, and now it's going to be an all-out slaughter. They're just caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. It is quite the investment with two different ultimates, but to be fair, now I feel like there's still a good amount of time, though, for recontention for Phoenix Rising.
There is, but Hunter, what was one thing we kind of talked about wanting to see from Pumas between map 2 and this one? The aggressiveness coming out from them. This is what we needed to see from Pumas. Look at how Phoenix Rising is kind of falling under it.
Yeah, and now Niano in a bit of a rough spot. The wall comes out, going to cause a little bit of separation. They're just picking off body after body. Retouch not going to be available. It is now map point for Pumas. This is exactly what we wanted to see from him, as Connie going to go back over to the Diva now.
And is it a little bit too late? And I think it might just be a little bit too late for them. You're going to have to deal with not having perks for maybe about 1-2 fights here. But you're really looking at Love and Rainy Day to find something with their ultimates, because that's the only way I really see them winning this fight. Poplots has his beat ready to go here, and they might use this early on just to give their team that aggressiveness they're looking for. Yeah, there it is right there. Crow, though, not going to be hit by it.
Got a mind reader here as my co-caster, ladies and gentlemen, as they're going to be able to survive for a little while. Crow going to go in very aggressively, is having to pop the bomb just to stay alive. Manages to move Connie back in, doesn't get caught by the bomb, though, with Rainy Day in the wrong place at the wrong time. Poplots coming up online, getting a little help from Crow. And once again, Pumas starting strong here, going to be cleaning house as Love goes in and pops the Deadeye.
I have to imagine they did that just to make a swap. The cast is not finding the value we were really looking for in Love.
Pause?
Disconnecting from the game there. We're looking for a pause. There it is. An unfortunate thing coming out there from the side of Phoenix Rising. But, Hunter, this was the nightmare situation I think we were kind of fearful of if you're Phoenix Rising, where you were looking so good throughout the entirety of the last two maps. You were looking good at the start of both points, but now it's just slowly starting to fall apart. And I don't know if they're going to be able to at least get it back together this map. And now we're going to have to start questioning, what do we do on the FaceIt side after this?
Yeah, like I said, we don't know specifically what the rules are in this regard. I'm making the assumption, personally, that they're going to play this map, and then they're going to report score and the map code over directly to FaceIt. That is what I imagine is going to happen, because obviously they need the proof of that kind of situation, because there is also the unfortunate situation that they might go ahead and play this map and it unfortunately enters a scenario where it might not be valid. I'm not saying that's going to be the case. I'm just speculating what the possibilities are potentially in this situation, because obviously it's still on hold. We don't have a direct line of communication with FaceIt ourselves regarding the situation. Obviously, that goes through the captains of the teams that we're seeing here today. But for the time being, we're just waiting for Love to get back into the game. Looks like that's going to be the case here momentarily, and that's the cool thing with the FaceIt lobbies, is typically when someone DCs, I mean, there is an insta pause as that happens, so should be back momentarily here, though.
Yeah, and while we wait for these two teams to get restarted, Hunter, I can tell you one thing. In the other series, Warfist versus Elements, we have our #1 seed locked in. It is sweeping Elements there. So Warfist will be #2. Elements, or no, my bad. Warfist will be the #1 seed. Elements will be the #2 seed, and then after that will be Factor X being your #3 seed, and the winner of this one will be your #4 seed. Right now, Phoenix Rising is up 2-0 on them, but might be about 2-1.
Yeah, Beat gets used the moment that Incendiary Rush comes out, so now going to try to find something, but Lamont gets another stick here. Freeze has been activated as Rainy Day hoping to find at least one body. DM, though, is there. Rainy Day going to be able to get it through with that primary, though, so now it's a 4v4 situation. They kind of have to come together, though, because their focus is kind of being split up right now. Hotbabe gets separated from their own immortality field. Crow knocked out a mech, so this is still realistically going either way. But Connie and squad are going to have to go and touch this point. Connie is just have to go and literally use the bomb, force an uncomfortable scenario. Is going to try to go in, nearly managed to stop Niano, but Niano is just going to have to escape. Take the reset as FX trying to hang around, but again, we'll have to take the reset.
We'll have to take the reset, but if you are Phoenix Rising, you have at least another fight on this map. You have your own Amp Matrix, which, I'm going to be honest, Hotbabe hasn't been finding the most value with them here. They've also been putting them in inopportune spots. This is actually a really good spot here, but they're going to have to deal with some Crow harassment.
Yeah, you see they kind of just back out and focus on being able to keep up Love in that scenario. Ends up working out beautifully, and now 30-some% and counting. We're already kind of entering that final fight territory, as FX, unfortunately, not going to survive. And if you hadn't managed to knock Crow out of mech here, I mean, that would be absolutely devastating.
It would be, but that spawn's so close for them that they're going to be able to get back into it. Lamont, though, falling would slow them down, but they're going to be able to recall to keep them up here. You look over at Pumas, though, Hunter. 4 ultimates about to be online here. An early pick from Phoenix Rising might just guarantee them this point, but we've seen it in the past. Pumas, they don't mind taking a 4v5 fight, especially if they have some ultimates behind them.
Exactly, and Poplots having that beat. It's going to have probably utilized pretty early here, and maybe it gets used if Rainy Day goes ahead and hits this freeze, and instead it gets used aggressively. Poplots is going to be in a really awkward position, ends up being frozen out. They're trying to finish off somebody. Bomb ends up having to be expended here, as Crow going to be able to get the remech, but it's on Niana right now. They're trying to find something right now with this overclock. Is going to have to go in super hot to make something happen. Beat gets expended, though, still QE holding it on for quite some time, but at the end of the day, it's going to be utilized beautifully so, as it looks like we're on our way to going towards that 4th sub point.
And that was a fight that if you're Phoenix Rising, you just had to have. You got rid of 4 ultimates from the other side while only using 2. I mean, that's a type of fight, Hunter, that really puts you back. It really resets everything. Resets momentum, resets your entire thought process of this map. And now, even though you're still on map point, if you're Phoenix Rising, you're probably feeling very good. And, I mean, how is Pumas going to respond here? Deadeye coming out here from Love, but is he going to be able to stop it?
Oh, it's gonna get close. It will eventually help get rid of Niano, so once again, a shot momentum in the arm here for Phoenix Rising. Gonna try to get Crow out of mech. We'll be able to do so. And the moment Crow gets knocked out of mech, guess what they do? They back out immediately and will leave them to suffer.
Crow is looking for the nearest edge of the map. However, they're in the middle of it, so there's a long way away. And Hunter, they are going back to spawn. It looks like they're going to give up some valuable ult charge here to make the swap over. Actually, no, they're sticking on the Czar. I like this swap. I really, really like it. Connie's going to have to be ready for it, but Rainy Day, this DPS line for Phoenix Rising started to come back alive. And you look at ultimates here again. Yeah, FX had that Kitsune Rush ready to go. Get me ready, next fight. You look over at the side of Phoenix Rising, though. Rainy Day about to have another Blizzard. That really helped them out last time.
Yeah, it really did, and Rainy Day is just a kind of a non-stop machine now. And the problem is now Pumas can't get a proper fight started. Niano ends up getting, you know, the revenge, but still Kiwi gets the shot directly back. So all this is just time being burnt away, and Phoenix Rising right now, gotta be loving it.
I'm being burnt away, but I like that aggressive play from Phoenix Rising. I don't like them falling back here. Understand why they're doing it, but I thought the bomb for Connie might have been enough. Damage out from Hot Babe.
Yeah, bomb is utilized, and Crow is going to have to use their own bomb to survive. Connie somehow gets rid of Pop-Lots in that scenario, as Connie be forcing that touch right now, but it's just Connie and Rainy Day hanging around. They obviously want to try to pull this back. Unfortunately, it should be a matter of time until Connie is finished off. Rainy Day going to hold this freeze for the next fight, as eventually Pumas going to take this fight back, but they're going to need back-to-back fight wins to get themselves going.
That Blizzard, though, for Rainy Day might actually just be enough here to win them a fight and win them this point. I mean, Connie making the swap here because of the Zarya on the other side, going to an Orisa, which fares, I guess, a little bit better, but still struggles into the Zarya here. I think you're really looking at Rainy Day to get that Blizzard off here very, very soon, or else that beat from Pop-Lots is just going to be able to basically negate it.
Yeah, Niano gets super low, and now, again, it's going to be able to regress. Hasn't gotten a ton over these last couple of overclocks right now. Is trying to find some bodies. Unfortunately, he's kind of just getting put back further and further, but managed to get rid of one beat, not coming out on time to be able to keep Hot Babe alive, and now the wall causing separation. It's such a weird spot for Niano as they're trying to pull through, and now Rainy Day and Love cleaning things out, and it's going to be coming back, in Phoenix Rising going to make this go to the 5th and final sub point here. As for Pumas, it might all be falling apart.
That this would be very unfortunate for Pumas if it completely falls apart. I mean, ultimate economy is almost the same for each side. Pumas has a slight advantage. They're gonna have 3 ready to go here, but they're gonna have a good opportunity here to get set up on point first, because we are walking to the opposite side of the map right now, Hunter. And Pumas, well, because most of them die in that last fight, they're gonna be able to get set up. Like I said, grab, beat, pulse bomb online. You can see a combo out here if you really want to. Deadeye though from Love. I like this. They're pressuring them out.
Yeah, and unfortunately just really waits a really long time to pull the trigger, but Lamont and Niano are holding out really nicely, helping clear house a little bit, sitting super low as Love, who eventually gets taken out. Connie does manage to get rid of FX, though, the fight not over quite yet, but that will solidify it as Rainy Day, unfortunately, going to die a little bit off the point here. So, Pumas starting strong, but invest the grab for that fight, and now, I mean, it's pretty even overall, actually, in alt trade.
I mean, they invested grab, they invested pulse bomb, but Lamont was able to build up that pretty quickly. They're gonna have both their support elements, which is really good, and not that far away from both their DPS ultimates as well. Connie having their own Terror Surge might be enough, but Crow's Bubbles and probably the beat from Pop-Lots can do a lot. But you know what? You want one thing Bubbles and beat cannot stop? A headshot from Love, who is on fire right now.
Yeah, 4v5 utilized right now. Pop-Lots deleted. Unfortunately, that Kitsune Rush gets diddly squat, and now they're going to be able to clean this up. They utilized 2 ultimates to do it, but you get out the Kitsune Rush, which honestly was one of the best case scenarios.
Yeah, you would love to get out the beat as well, maybe even try to find an Ajax, but Pop-Lots smart, holding on to it here. Niano has an overclock, been able to find at least one the last couple times they used it here, and I mean, there's nothing ready on Phoenix Rising right yet, so if you are Pumas, this is the time where you go aggressive, but they're playing split, so that aggressive playstyle not going to come out, but the beat is.
Still Kiwi gets super low, and now they trade out. Lamont not able to get a whole lot with the pulse, but Niano is starting to pop off, has gotten rid of one, needs to try to find a second, gets speared away, trying to get chased down, but Rainy Day is going to get deleted. It's just Connie. They're trying to make a 3v1 happen, trying to run down Niano. At the end of the day, though, going to get cleared away. Hence its final fight territory here for Pumas. Their livelihood potentially on the line this next fight.
And I mean, that was a very expensive fight there for Pumas, but they understood the situation. Now, though, if you're Phoenix Rising, beat Blizzard, Deadeye, Connie, not that far away from another Terror Surge, you are honestly in a good spot. You cannot just afford to lose someone early, and Lamont is on that off angle, looking to try to get that one-clip punch combo.
Yeah, and I think it all comes down to this right here because there's so many ults online for Phoenix Rising, but you have to be careful not to use too much here. You want to have some still sitting by for next point. Beat, though, gets activated. Bubble is there. It gets burnt away, but the cleanse is right there perfectly on time. But at the end of the day, Crow is still sitting in such a dangerous territory, but it's a 4v4 situation. Lamont needs to try to crack down on somebody. It's a rough scenario, but Connie manages to get rid of Crow. That might have been the worst case scenario. As we're back into a 3v4 situation, Freeze gets thrown in by Rainy Day, and if you're Lamont, you are happy and you will back out and you will set up for the final touch.
You still have to deal with the Terror Surge and the Amp Matrix. Yeah, Hot Wave's Amp Matrix have not been the best here recently,
no.
But hey, they might be enough here now. Finding Niano and FX out. Where is Lamont for a touch?
Lamont is literally the touch, and they know it. And you're to see right now, the wall's going to get utilized here momentarily to try to get rid of them. They're going to get frozen up, and it's literally whether or not they touch this point. They're going to hit it and immediately hit the recall. They will recall, so the point is going to be activated, but another touch has to come through. They need to be able to make it. They barely get the touch. It's Terror Surge online. It might be down to Lamont to find something with this pulse bomb right now. Sitting super low. It comes out. They go up above. They'll find the stick, but it might not be enough. It's literally just supports hanging around on the point. Beat is up online. Gets boots around and catches onto FX just barely. It is an effort by these supports to try to pull it back. It is just Poplots hanging on the point. Connie to go back, but it is not needed. Phoenix Rising gonna close it out. We'll move on to the South America playoffs to take on Warfist.
And Hunter, what a series. What a series between these two teams. What a final map between these two teams. Whew. Phoenix Rising gonna be moving on here, and we were impressed with them after Tuesday. I'm even more impressed with them now. Pumas, they put up a hell of a fight, but much like Phoenix Rising's game against Factor X on Tuesday, it ends in a sweep here, but this time they are the team coming out on top, and like you said, they'll be the last representatives here in the South American Masters Tier playoffs. Remember, winner goes on to EWC, and Phoenix Rising, they might have a chance here considering how well they played tonight.
Honestly, they just might. You carry that kind of momentum in the playoffs. Very, very crazy things can happen. Obviously, we have to see, wait until everything is figured out to get the full, update on the standings when it comes to the FaceIt League website. But realistically, we know for a fact what is going to happen now. Like I said, Warfist, that first spot, Elements in second, Factor X in third, and now Phoenix Rising with that win will take the fourth and final spot. So, I mean, the playoffs are pretty much set in place for us. Warfist will take on Phoenix Rising, and Elements will take on Factor X in that first round.
And you have to remember, Factor X is one of the only teams outside of Warfist tonight, and I believe Luminous Mortis, to actually take a map off of Elements.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, Factor X is one of the only teams to take a map off Elements all season long. And when we saw that matchup, remember, week one, it was close throughout, but Elements was just the better team. However, this Factor X team, really a resilient squad, played really well towards the end of the season. While Elements having this 3-0 loss, I mean, they're going to go back and look at it, but you're going to have to start to wonder, is that going to weigh on them a little bit heading into playoffs?
Yeah, you definitely got to wonder if that's going to be the case or not. I think they have a right to go in there with a level of confidence. Obviously, you go up against the one team that hasn't been beaten yet, but Warfist has still, in some situations, have been seen to be able to shed blood. There is no team in this division that is completely unbeatable, even if you are that undefeated squad like Warfist. I'll reiterate over and over, anything could happen in the playoffs. If you just go in with a ton of momentum, I mean, anything could happen. I mean, this is literally the narrative that we've been building for Shikigami over the past, course of the last couple of weeks, where you wouldn't have thought them to be a playoff team, and now they're probably one game away from being able to fully be in contention for it. So anything could happen. That is obviously for a different day. But, I mean, again, congratulations to Phoenix Rising for getting the big win. And for Pumas, obviously not the end that you hope for, but still got some good wins in the season. And look at the opportunity next season to come back and try to make it happen then.
Yeah, and I mean, this is probably not the way that Pumas really wanted to go. And Hunter, we've casted Pumas a decent amount throughout the regular season. I believe 3, maybe even 4 times. And I mean, we were very impressed with this team. They suffered some tough losses. I mean, the only teams they lost to are the teams that made the playoffs. and they were able to keep it close against some. And I mean, it's just an unfortunate way for them to go out. But like you said, they're still going to be around next season, and I believe this is a team that is going to be able to really, really improve going into it. But Phoenix Rising, give them all the credit in the world here. When we were talking on Tuesday after the game against Factor X, we were both trying to figure out, are they still is there still a chance for them? And I feel like I knew that there was still a chance for them. All they had to do was beat Pumas, and hey, everything worked out for them. All they had to do was beat Pumas, and they did that here tonight pretty convincingly as well. If you look at the scoreboard, but it was anything but that. This was a very, very close series. Phoenix Rising show that they can be really resilient, especially when you look at that last map of Saravasa, because Hunter at times, and I even said it looked like Phoenix Rising just completely lost all the momentum. And hey, they had that pause and they came back in and looked like a completely different team. Like they reset their entire mentals, and Pumas just could not ever get it back.
Yeah, that's the way it felt, and we saw that glimmer of hope when we got, over there into Saravas, and Pumas had themselves such a great beginning. But you said to yourself, you can kind of see it just slipping away as things got further and further along. They kept every point close. It literally came down to the notion where the sport just had to survive for as long as possible on the point. But it's just an unfortunate scenario how that last fight ends up going down for them. But it shows the resilience of not only Phoenix Rising, but I think especially of Pumas, had to go in here, beat down their starting tank, and still manage to push us as far as they possibly could. So obviously, a big effort for them. I hope to see a lot from them next season. But for Phoenix Rising, you gotta be happy for them. They make this amazing story, and we'll have to see what they're going to do. But, Dex, I will say, I wish we could cover more of the South America region right now. Wish it could happen. I wish so, but everything is locked in place in this situation. So what we're going to do for the time being, ladies and gentlemen, is we're going to go ahead and chill out for a while. We do, however, have a North American game here going on in about 45 minutes round. That's going to be a game between Tanuki Tempur and Dill Dragons, which is a very important game in its own right, Dex, because, well, Tempur is locked in to their spot on the top 8. For Dill Dragons, if they lose that game, they are officially eliminated from top 8 contention.
So that's going to be a fun one here at the top of the hour. Everyone, hey, again, thank you for the raid and all the raiders who stayed and watched the end of the series. It was a very, very exciting series. Please join us back here again in 45 minutes for some North American Overwatch action.
Yeah. See y'all then. Peace.